Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Hero Movie Podcast, your greatest source for superhero movie discussions in the multiverse. I am your host, Adam Portrais, and I'm joined again by Sean Keenan.
Heidi would like to know, is mind octopus for sale?
Yeah, I know you got cut off, but it's okay. Something about an octopus for sale. We'll go on also.
The mind octopus. Mind octopus.
Great start as always. And of course, Bruce Leslie.
I'm a prickly pear, and man, does that Peter Cushing look good these days.
Oh, I tell you what, man, when you dust off the old mothballs and stuff, shake them out a little bit, let them dry a little bit, squirt a little bit of Febreze on them, he's A-okay, I says. For those of you who have been living under a rock, Rogue One, a Star Wars story, has finally come out, and I don't know, I think it made a pretty penny or two. I haven't looked at the box office myself, but if I was to venture a guess, I'm saying it made
71 mil on Friday.
Yeah, so I think,
nice.
I say that. I completely lied. I think it's tracking to like 155, 160, somewhere in that neighborhood, which is pretty darn
guys,
good.
this may be a little revealing, but I didn't make anywhere near that much on Friday.
No, I can tell you for a fact I made probably negative that. I don't know how that works. So yeah, we're going to be talking about Rogue One, a Star Wars story. For those of you who are new to the show, welcome. I know we always, especially when we cover something like a Star Wars, big tentpole things, we get people in. And this is Hero Movie Podcast, where every week we talk about superhero movies. And this one is a superhero movie in one way or another. It has comic book connections. We'll let you know how all that good stuff works. But yeah, man, we're going to have a good old time here today. And so, Bruce, you've seen this at least 15 times now, right?
Hey, this is maybe a first. I saw it once, and that's no reflection on what I thought of the movie. Just had a busy pre-Christmas weekend.
No, at least you saw it the once. We don't want to give the what was the Robin rating that we came up with when we didn't see it? Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's the one.
That's good.
The Robin you didn't get to see. That's the movie if you forgot to see it. So.
Forgot to watch. That was a good call back there, Adam. I was totally clueless when you asked me that.
Not too shabby. But we thank you guys for downloading, and because a lot of other people have done it as well, they drop down to the iTunes and give us 5-star reviews, a.k.a. Humdingers.
Humdinger.
And this one is titled, go figure, Humdinger, and it's 5 stars. This is from Rick347. Rick writes as follows. Awesome work, excellent podcast, deserving review of HMP mails, and Patreon support. The comic connection is wonderful. Thank you, Bruce. The Stallone connection is hilarious. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Adam, for being a great play-by-play announcer and linchpin to your color commentators. Humdinger!
Humdinger.
There you go. Adam, I have to tell you, when you said, quote, want to see Zod's wiener in the Batman v Superman, it worked its way into my friend's culture. White creeper van in the next lane? We say it. Guy staring at woman inappropriately? We say it. Hilarious. But you do also have to say it as Michael Shannon kind of says it. You know, where he's just kind of down, hey, you want to see Zod's wiener? Because Michael Shannon just has that really understated, kind of almost mumbly sort of voice. I love that guy.
Was he in Shame?
I don't think he was in Shame. If he was, like, all I remember from that is how I'm wildly inaccurate. That's the only thing I remember.
I'm
from
looking
that movie.
it up now. Keep talking.
But,
because, boy, if he were in Shame, that gives a whole new level to the meaning of Zod's wiener.
Oh my God! Well, see, you're thinking of Fassbender. That's who you're thinking of.
That must be who I'm thinking of.
But yeah, that's where you're just like, oh, well, that's just completely unfair.
I get my Magnetos and my Zods flippity flop sometimes.
Flippity flop. You're good looking. He's an excellent looking man. He's a fantastic actor. And when that movie comes on, you're just like, well, why would God give everything to one man? That's not.
He is not in it.
Okay.
He's not in Shame.
No,
Maybe he'll be in Shame too, even shamier.
Shamier. Speaking of shame, we have no shame in reading the emails that people give us, or as we like to call them, HMP mails. It's working.
Love it.
It's getting into the lexicon. You shut up.
It's called branding.
You got to just sear it into the skin there. And guys, this is an email that I never thought we'd get. I opened this.
I can't wait to hear this.
I opened this up and I was just shocked beyond all belief. This one is entitled "Burn in Hades."
Love it.
Hello, Hero Movie Podcast. I was informed by a colleague that your show regularly references me. I was surprised, to say the least, that a geek culture podcast had anything to do with me. So in response, I've listened to about 15 episodes and can definitely say that I now feel much dumber, but also more entertained. This is not my cup of tea, but I have enjoyed your work and can see its merit. I do have a few questions about this podcast. Number one, and we'll answer these as we go on. Number one, who the heck is Heidi?
Heidi's an inside joke.
It's an inside joke, and even we don't know it sometimes.
I thought she was the lady or the little girl that cut that Raiders game short back in the 70s or something.
That's right, the Heidi Bowl.
Indeed.
That's right.
Question number two, what the heck are short pants? They're nothing. They are nothing, no matter what Bruce tries to tell you.
Picture pants, only shorter.
He's talking about shorts. He's talking about shorts.
Pants,
short leg pants.
But those
Oh my god.
But those could be like capris if they're like short pants, because those are like pants but shorter.
Capris are shortish leg pants.
Shortish leg pants.
Oh my god.
That makes a lot more sense. I'm glad we're clearing all this up now, so it's important that we do so.
Hey, if I ever play D&D again, I'm going to be a dwarf. His first name will be Short Leg. His last name will be Pants.
We're going to make this happen. We definitely will. And number three, why do you hate me so much? This letter is from a man like a literal Dr. Dan Dew.
His name is actually Dr. Dan Dew.
Dr. Daniel Dew. D-E-W. That, like, I'm looking at it, it's like, it's not just what he says. If you look at, like, that's what, is in his email address, not in that specific order, but you know that is what this guy's actual name is. So,
and you just don't know how badly I hope he's a Juilliard-trained dermatologist.
So here's the thing, and there's a little bit more to the email, but we'll do this for people that are kind of new, and we do this from time to time. I know we did it on the episode 100 where we kind of gave a little backstory to everything. But for those of you that don't know, as we just kind of showed you there in the iTunes review, we have a lot of 5-star reviews. We had one that started out as was it 3-star? It started at 3-star, right?
Started at 3.
Started at 3. A guy named Dr. Dan Dew, that's his iTunes little name and whatever, gave us a 3-star review and said, hey, the podcast is okay, but I was looking for a thing about how all the Marvel movies connect together. And we got on and we're like, well, thanks for the review and everything, but that's not really what we purported ourselves to be. We kind of do all movies and stuff like that. So while, you can't walk into a Pizza Hut and be like, how come you guys don't have hamburgers? Well, that's not what they do there. You know what I mean? So,
worst hamburger ever. Just a big bun with ketchup and cheese.
It doesn't make sense. But so, and he was gracious, and he was like, you know what? That makes a good point. I'm going to actually go up to 4 stars. And then we said, we kind of, it's sad. We ridiculed him a little bit more after that because we're like, look, man, you're going to go up to 5 stars because you're going to love us. Because he said for some reason that we didn't like, what was it, Firefly? And that wasn't...
That was the 2-star when he threw in Firefly.
Yeah, so, he came down and he goes, I'm giving you a 2-star now.
We went to 4 briefly.
Right, we went to 4 briefly. Oh, no, but the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is when we went to 4. He said, I can't give you a 5-star in good conscience because you don't love Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So we gave him a little bit of crap, and we're like, we're going to get you to 5 stars, buddy. And we apparently said some stuff that he didn't like after that. I think because we kept kind of razzing him a little bit, but I thought it was fun.
I think it actually was the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. review that got us to 2 stars.
It was.
Okay.
He was excited when we said we were going to do it, and he gave us 4 stars in anticipation and then yanked those bad boys away.
Yeah, and then we were just like, oh, this is not what we want it to be. This is not very good. And oddly enough, since it's gone on, we've actually all changed our views on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., oddly enough.
What really I think inspired the character of Dr. Dan Dew as he exists on our show is when the first sentence of his 2-star review was like, F you guys, I'm out of here. Don't ever mention my name again because I'm not listening. So that guaranteed he's going to show up at least twice an episode.
And it's kind of like having I figured the Dr. Dan Dew in the iTunes never had like a younger sibling to where, if you say don't do this, that means I'm just going to keep on doing it even more,
Yeah.
So it was one of those, oh, you don't want us to do this? Well, we're just going to continue to do it. And honestly, even though he's the only bad review that we have on iTunes, he's become just kind of a great, puppet for all of our inside angst and anger.
But I will say I'd have more sympathy for him if I did find out that he was a conjoined twin and his brother loved the show.
Oh, that'd be awesome. So I'm going to finish up the real Dr. Dandu, because I believe this guy is a real medical professional. He continues, I'm sure there are more questions that I should be asking, but I think you may be better served by a comprehensive psych eval. Fair enough. For any person to watch all of these horrible films, there must be some form of self-hatred involved. Well, can't say that ain't true. Except for Captain America, those movies were okay. Feel free to keep on using my name, obviously. I'm not offended. I may even tune in now and then. See, even when we, dish on Dr. Dan Do from the iTunes, a real Dr. Do steps up to the plate, becomes a humanitarian, and says, you know what? That Dr. Do might not like you. He might, this dude doesn't even this isn't even his bag. And he still goes, you guys are pretty good. That's all. That's awesome enough for me, man.
So we need just some kind of way to differentiate between the good doctor and the evil doppelganger.
I think the evil doppelganger wears a mustache. I think we all know that those are the rules.
Well, it's the goatee that really gives him away. Yeah. But I feel like every time we do our little bits on Dr. Dandu, I'm going to have to clarify, not you, good guy. We're talking about the other fella.
Well, I don't want to do that, but maybe we can have a dueling do at some point, where we have one that's just happy and then the other regular Dr. Dandu. Maybe they can have an arm wrestling match. I don't know. We'll figure something out.
And good doctor, if the good doctor's listening, I just want to say, physician to physician, welcome.
Yeah, man. So thanks for showing up and all that kind of jazz, man. We really appreciate that. So here on Hero Movie Podcast, I know we've taken a little bit of time here, but we review movies. We do. And this week's is one that made quite a splash at the box office. Here is the trailer for Rogue One, A Star Wars Story.
The world is coming undone. Imperial flags reign across the galaxy.
Can you be trusted without your shackles?
Let's just get this over with, shall we?
We've a mission for you. A major weapons test is imminent. We need to know how to destroy it.
If you're really doing this, I want to help.
Good.
Good. I've been recruiting for the rebellion for a long time.
We destroyed our home. I fight the Empire now.
I fear nothing. All is as the Force wills it.
The captain says you are a friend. I will not kill you.
Thanks. There isn't much time. Every day they grow stronger.
There is a 97.6% chance of failure.
He means well.
This is our chance to make a real difference. Are you with me?
All the way.
All right, that was the trailer for Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, our new release review of the week. IMDb plotline. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. The Rebel Alliance makes a risky move to steal the plans for the Death Star, setting up an epic saga. The epic saga to follow. This is directed by Gareth Edwards, written by Chris Wentz, Tony Gilroy, John Knoll, and Gary Weta. Starring Felicity Jones, Diego Luna, Alan Tudyk, Donnie Yen, Ken Jeong, Ben Mendelsohn, Forrest Whitaker, Riz Ahmed, Mads Mikkelsen, a boatload of people. They keep on going and going. I'd be here all day listening to people. But Here on Here Movie Podcast, we relate every single movie that we talk about back to its comic book roots. This is a tough one because this is kind of I've heard this described as episode 3.5 or 3.85, which I also like the 3.85.
Yeah, I think it's more like 3.9.
So, Bruce, what do you have for us for this week's comic book connection?
Well, the Star Wars Expanded Universe used to be spelled with a capital E and a capital U, but now it's been downgraded to lowercase. There's some people out there that want me to call it Star Wars Legends Stories or something like that, but I got to tell you, that ain't going to happen. But this Expanded Universe told the stories of everything that happened off-screen ever. And I do mean ever. The stories cover about 25,000 star years, I guess you would call them. It also made sure to describe the creation of the Rebel Alliance in the year 0 BBY. Now, do you guys know what BBY means?
Bring your own...
Before the Battle of Yavin.
That's right. Before the Battle of Yavin, as Sean says. I like Yavin. I think it makes me sound smart. But anyway, that, of course, is the battle at the end of Star Wars when Luke blows up the Death Star. Oh, and probably should have put a spoiler warning before that.
Jeez,
but there
man.
you go. It's out of the bag. That was the first successful mission of the Alliance. I'm sorry, the first successful mission of the Alliance was the recovery of the Death Star plans in the aforementioned year of 0 BBY. Now, in the extended universe, or the expanded universe, rather, the Death Star was created by a guy named Bevel Limelisk. Don't know why they got rid of that name, but Darth Vader ended up capturing some rebel leaders, including Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, a guy named Garm Iblis. So, you know, all of them, basically. And he sent them to the unfinished Death Star for execution. Emperor Palpatine sort of, did a Bond villain thing where he revealed all of his plans about the Death Star to them before they were going to be put to death. But of course, the rebel leaders were saved. And they were saved by a guy named Galen Merrick. I don't know are either of you two familiar with him from the expanded universe? AKA Star Killer is another name he went by.
I'm aware of him because
he's kind of like the anti-Anakin. He started out Sith and went to the way of the Jedi instead of vice versa or whatever. But anyway, he sacrificed himself to allow Mon Mothma and company to escape. And when I heard, the beginning of this movie, the very first name I heard was Galen, I got a little excited. But my suspicions were proven wrong. Now, in the old version of the story, Admiral Akbar had been serving as Tarkin's slave, and he was rescued by the rebellion and soon put to work detecting traps for the rebels. Now, during the Death Star uprising, a section of the plans were stolen amidst the rebel jailbreak. Stormtroopers of the not quite so cleverly named 501st Legion, a little fan service there in the book, crushed the uprising. But some of the prisoners did manage to transmit a copy of the plans to their allies with the Rebel Alliance. Now, the mission to steal the plans really gets convoluted from that point, and it involves numerous novels, both prose and graphic. And the Rogue Squadron wasn't involved because, frankly, they didn't exist yet. The Rogue Squadron would come into fame thanks to Dark Horse Comics' X-Wing series, and that happened to prove the power of comics by actually making Porkins look cool. Now, when Disney acquired the rights to Star Wars, the decision was made to, and this is in their own words, take a chainsaw to the expanded universe, dealing with it the same way I once dealt with my Limp Bizkit CD collection. Now, I can understand that they didn't want future endeavors to be restricted by existing canon over which they had no creative control, but I also had reams of condescending knowledge which no longer held value. Who was I, if not the man who could regale members of the general public with tales of Luke Skywalker's severed hand being used to create an evil clone, also named Luke, but spelled with 2 U's? I had to find a way to reconcile this dichotomy driving my bicameral mind to the point of insanity. And also, I really like Westworld, so I had to shoehorn in bicameral mind.
Very good.
I have what I consider to be an above-average awareness of comic history, so I thought WWDCD, or for laymen, what would DC do? Now, I know Star Wars is a Marvel property with a Dark Horse interlude in between, but DC is the master of confusing canon. What would they do? Have a Wookiee super punch reality? Have Lobot fly into the sun and reset existence? No, I think this situation calls for a Flashpoint paradox. So I imagine there is a Star Wars Earth 1 and Earth 2. Or I guess you could say Tatooine 1 and 2. parallel universes, which one in which the expanded universe happened, one in which Rogue One and the current comics take place. So what merged these timelines? What was the course correct? Well, imagine the ripple in reality caused by the destruction of Alderaan. That moment when Obi-Wan felt a bunch of people whining at once, then they started pouting or something. I don't quite remember the line. Well, that moment, that incidence of planetary destruction merged the two Star Wars universes into one, so everything after that happens in one universe that's been continuous ever since. But the stuff before, well, a lot of that was Tatooine too. This means that I can arbitrarily assign things like Jar Jar and midichlorians to the other universe, where things like that fit a little better. A place where someone can call himself Star Killer with a straight face. Episodes 4 through 7, as well as Rogue One. Also, Kieran Gillen's excellent Darth Vader run at Marvel recently. And sorry, but I think the holiday special fits in here too, Sean, because it did happen after Alderaan. So all of that is Star Wars. I'll just call it Prime. Or how about we just call it Star Wars Now with an exclamation point?
Yeah, that sounds like something we'd do.
So there's two things I want to talk about before we really get into it here. Mm-hmm. One, how extensive was your Limp Bizkit collection?
My biscuit was the limpest in town. I'll just leave it at that.
Now I know why you got that nickname. Two is, the trailer. We played the trailer at the top of the show here. There's like no less than 3 moments in that trailer that aren't in this movie.
There's a ton.
See, I stayed away from the trailer, so I don't necessarily know what those moments are.
And I'm in the same boat. I didn't really I watched the teaser trailer maybe 2 or 3 times, and I stayed away from everything else. I went into this movie pretty darn clean, and the stuff that I had seen, I'd seen it months ago, so it had pretty much all escaped out of my mind, save for 2 or 3 main kind of images, so to speak.
And, if they wanted to put false stuff to get people excited in the trailer, why not throw a little of B. Arthur singing in the cantina?
Man, you're right.
A little bit of
they
that.
proved they could do it with Peter Cushing. Why not bring in B, too?
Bring back, what's his name? Stinky? What's his name?
Yeah, Stinky, the little Wookiee.
Bring Stinky into it.
Is Roger Corman still alive? I want to bring back all the dead people from the holiday special.
Corman's still alive.
Okay, maybe the next one.
Oh my goodness!
He's over here plotting for Corman's death. How dare you, sir?
That man is a treasure.
And in fact, I said Roger when I meant Harvey. So apologies to Roger.
Oh no!
Harvey Corman is dead, though.
Okay, that's the one I was talking about. He was in the holiday special, not Roger.
I was just like, I don't know where he's going with it, but you're automatically trying to kill people.
Stir, stir, whip. Stir, stir, whip. Come on.
So, as we had mentioned, this is kind of a Star Wars 3.5 or 3.85 or whatever. It happens just before the Star Wars Episode 4 A New Hope. And this one's a little bit different. So, it starts out and we have no title crawl. So
yeah, but they still stick to that formula of, you're below something and go up to it with the camera movement there. So I really think a title crawl would have been okay. But instead of a ship, we get the rings around Uranus or whatever planet that is.
I think that, and I'm just going to truck on over that joke. I think that
as well you should.
Good move, smooth move, Sean.
I think that if you have a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, which they do, I think if you're going to put a music sting in there, which they do, I think that if you're going to have the opening be like every other opening to every other Star Wars ever, where it's the long shot of the ship flying overhead, then you should have a crawl. And if there's any Star Wars movie ever that deserved the crawl, it's this one. How many people did you have to explain what this Star Wars is to non-Star Wars nut jobs like us?
I don't associate with those people.
Now, my question is, did those made-for-TV Ewok movies have a crawl?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I can't tell if you're joking or not.
No, I'm not joking, because I honestly think when those were made, Lucas made a point of saying the crawls were only for the major episodes, not the spinoffs. And though he's no longer the main man, I think Disney kind of did him a solid or something. They kind of wanted to honor that.
And I think that's good.
I can't remember.
Because I don't think the holiday special had a crawl either.
You doubt that.
No, because they were too busy telling you how it was a cavalcade of stars.
Yeah, that's right.
The cavalcade of B. Arthur. God bless. But no, I like their kind of being. I like saving the crawls just for the other ones, because at the same time too, while this is a Star Wars story and technically, I'd love to find somebody who hasn't seen any of the other Star Wars and let them see this to see what their reaction are. I know that's tough to find these days, but I'd love to see what somebody's reaction is like this is their first Star Wars movie, you know?
I think it might be pretty strong. I got to tell you, I think it could be pretty strong. It's definitely going to be better than if their first one was The Phantom Menace, I'd say.
Well, that's true, but I mean, like, as far as like a comprehension standpoint.
Well, here was the argument I made to the few people in my family that I talked to about it when they said, "Oh, I got to go back and watch all 7 or I won't know what's going on."
Nope.
I told them, I don't know what's going on. This is coming up whole cloth. This is new territory. I mean, what little bit you do need to know gets explained pretty quickly. That big round thing in the sky that shoots lasers is bad, and our heroes want to stop it. Yeah. And from there, you really don't need to know much of the lore. Now, there are Easter eggs and huge treats at the end if you do know the lore, but the movie still works on its own. And in fact, I think somebody who's not familiar with Star Wars, at least not terribly familiar with Star Wars, they go into this, and the way that our heroes wrap up the story is going to shock them, I believe.
Yeah. Now, I will say this, and we'll go ahead and plant this flag right here for anybody that is listening who, for some wild and crazy reason, has not seen this movie. From here on out, we're going to be spoiling the heck out of this movie, so we may jump around a little bit, just so you know, because we don't want anybody to just go, "I was never warned." You're warned now. So
yeah, that's because we hadn't said that is why I tried to tiptoe around my statement.
Yeah, so from here on out, there'll be spoilers abound. So come back and join us after you've seen it and had yourself what I'll call a good old time.
Very good. So let's talk, because it feels like we all are in the same boat here. If you guys don't mind, let's talk about the stuff we didn't like first, because I think that there's so much good in this movie that's going to take up 99% of the time. Let's talk about the stuff we didn't like first.
Oh, well, the most of what I didn't like, and just because I have to come up with something that I didn't like the way that Galen Erso's first name was Galen. I understand they took a chainsaw to the EU, so the name Galen shouldn't have any significance. But still, how hard is it to give him another first name? You know, because as soon as I hear someone call him Galen, we don't hear his last name. We see him facing Imperials who want to bring him back to Vader or something, or to the Emperor. So I'm thinking he's gone over to the side of the light at a time where there are no other Jedi really that he knows of. And I thought we were going to see some kind of awesome Force battle here where he just slaughters all those people and leaves. But of course, that's not what we get. So the name bugged me a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Also, at the end, it starts to get pretty video game. You know, you even have K2 given sort of the narration. Okay, I can locate it, but you're going to have to use the arms to find it. You better be careful. There's a limited time. You know, and they got to find the arms, and they have to use the little driver to find it. Then it breaks down, so they have to climb. And then also back with the cargo pilot, that defected. He's saying, okay, so if I do this and you take this cord over there, you plug it in, then you've got to get over there, pull the knob. It's almost like a little bit like one of those Marvel Lego games where you're trying to defeat Doc Ock. You got to hit these sort of random devices in the proper order. And I'm sounding negative there, but I understand they got to keep it moving. Does make it exciting, keeps it from dragging at the end. But it did feel kind of like, video game where you have to do A, then B, then C, then D, and then win. And then at the end, apparently, maybe you didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess like some of the major things, and honestly, I say major, but they're not even that. I mean, they're kind of nitpicky, and like I like them and I hate them at the same time. I
want to hear it.
Just a couple of the cameos and stuff. I mean, I honestly don't think we need like a C-3PO and R2 cameo in it. It's fine, but erase them and no harm is done to it. The guys from
here's what I want to know though. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but did they put a CGI Kenny Baker in R2-D2?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Inside. They CGI'd him inside and then CGI'd on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sounds like Andy Capp.
Edwards is really known for his authenticity, but we'll talk about some of the things that he's done for this movie a little bit later. But another one is another cameo is just running into the guys from the Mos Eisley. I've got the death sentence on 12 systems or whatever. It's
Walrus Man.
Yeah,
Walrus Man,
yeah.
and the doctor. I can't remember.
Yeah. That was a little forced.
It's a little bit like I kind of dug it, but at the same time, it does take you out of it.
They had a really bad week. Those two guys.
I was going to say it does introduce a real big hole because we see Jeddah, the city in Jeddah, get destroyed, but we don't necessarily know that they made it off in time to go to Mos Eisley. So I thought maybe that was working a little too hard for a cameo.
Yeah, it was. That's the problem, is that it worked too hard for that, because then you do leave the well, did they get off, and why didn't we see them get off the planet, and blah blah. It's like you don't need to see that. We don't need to see them get off the planet. We don't need to see them. We don't need to see them there. Period. It's fun and it's cute, but we don't need it, honestly. And it almost felt like they lingered on it just a little bit too long. Had it even been a little bit more in passing, it would have been better. But it's kind of like that, wait for it, huh? Okay, we're going to go now.
And something else that did kind of puzzle me is they work so hard to put those cameos in, but when they have a Mon Calamari Admiral, why not just make it Akbar?
I'm glad that they didn't make it Akbar, actually, because I'm glad because they, that voice actor is no longer with us. One, but two, I like the fact that the Mon Calamari are basically the leadership of the rebellion. I think that's a really neat idea.
They're definitely
adds to it.
But
they're definitely the best. They have the best ships, I guess you could say, amongst the Rebel Alliance.
And I will say this: the guy who played Akbar in the costume and everything, unless he's passed within the last couple of years, is still alive and is a delightful man.
Oh, good.
He's we met him at a thing and got a thing signed, and he was just a delight. It was like you see some of those people when they're going and signing stuff, and they just they hate life so much. But this guy was always he was happy to see everybody. I was like, why can't everybody be like you, man?
Any other minuses from you, Adam?
Honestly, it's the big one. It's the big glaring thing in this entire thing is as good, and we'll get into how good it is later. But as good as CGI Tarkin is, CGI Leia leaves. It's like she's in it for such a short time. It feels like you could have worked on it just a touch harder. Whereas I would put Mothma in 90% range. She's in about 75% range, and it feels like you could have worked a little harder.
I will applaud Edwards and the writers when they had Leia say something about hope at the end. At least she didn't say we have a new hope. That would have been just a bridge too far.
Now I haven't because I've only seen it the once, but I've heard from other people, and it didn't stick out to me, at least when I saw it the first time. But I hear people saying I'm to understand that people say the word hope an awful lot in this movie.
They sure do.
It didn't catch me, at least. I'll put it that way.
It's one of those things where it's like, I wonder what the takeaway theme is supposed to be here.
It didn't catch me like that. But other than that, I would say
we're losing. We need to hope harder. I'm hoping as hard as I can. Hope harder.
I'm all up in this hope, but no.
I sure hope I can hope some more.
But I mean, I there's not much. I mean, those are slight nits to pick, but I mean, even those aren't even that big. Some of the action, I think, is while some of it's very good, some of it's a little bit stilted for me. Not a ton, but
I guess that all worked for me. But I'm an easy target for that.
Yeah,
I'm curious.
Me too.
I'm curious about Sean's negatives here.
A lot of it's nitpicky. There is one thing that I think is fundamental. There's one fundamental problem with this movie, and I think the soundtrack is awful.
Oh, really?
I thought it was really, really bad. There's no takeaway from this movie. There's no song where you're like, oh man, that's really great. For all the problems that The Force Awakens has, Rey's theme, you take that home with you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There's
I agree.
there's nothing. There's no song in this movie,
or even something fun like the Cantina song from the 77 Star Wars.
Right, exactly. You know, that moment doesn't exist in this movie, and I don't know if it's because they fired the one guy and brought in the other guy. I don't know what, but the best song in this movie is the trailer where they play both the Imperial March and the Star Wars theme in unison, and they overlay each other, and it's so cool. They don't have that moment in this movie. There's not a single time where you're like, man, what a great song.
Yeah, I think it could have used a Jedi rap or something for the young kids.
Oh, man, you're right.
Well, bring it in the children.
You are right. It totally could have used that. That's the major problem. That's the only major problem I have with this movie. Everything else is little nits. You know, I think that.
And I guess I have one more thing that's not a complaint because I was fine with it, but it just sort of stuck out to me. Kind of the way, you know, when I first tried to wrap my head around exactly what a 3-act structure means, it was explained to me sort of in terms of the disasters in the original 1977 Star Wars, not in the context of Star Wars. That was just such a clear example. Right. And in this movie, it seems like the disaster that ends the first act is awfully close to what's supposed to be your mid-time disaster. Like Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen were slaughtered, awfully close to Obi-Wan getting struck down in this movie.
Right. Exactly.
Because Saw dies, and Saw Gerrera dies when the Death Star fires on Jeddah, and then it seems like 15 minutes later is when Galen dies in his daughter's arms or whatever.
And I'm glad you brought up Saw, because Saw Gerrera is one of the issues that I have with this movie. I know it's Forrest Whitaker. I know it's kind of cool that he's got like a pre-Darth Vader breathing apparatus, all of that stuff.
And I got to tell you, I thought about Dennis Hopper and Blue Velvet every time he took a hit from it.
Why exactly do they need to have him in this movie? There's really there's no other reason than, hey, isn't it really cool to have an extremist rebel be the one who raises Jyn Erso? There's no other. I've seen this movie twice, and I can't figure out why the writers wrote this character.
I really think they were trying to they were obviously trying to make sort of a comment on things like what we have going on in the Middle East, and trying to make us sympathize with terrorists to a degree, but still understand that not everyone for that same cause is a terrorist.
Well,
does that make sense to you? I think it was a little heavy-handed, to be honest.
Now, I want to say this. So for some people that don't know, because honestly, again, until I started listening to a couple other podcasts and stuff, just doing their reviews, I didn't know this. But that, like, his character is a character from the animated
Clone
stuff.
Wars. Yeah.
So what's his kind of involvement? Because again, I haven't really seen any of this, so I don't know from nothing. And so for other folks that may be in my dumb situation here, explain a little bit who he is if you can.
You want to go, Bruce, or you want me to do it?
He's the guy with the robot legs in Clone Wars. He's an extremist rebel.
Okay.
I'm just guessing based on what I saw in the movie. I haven't really watched much of the Clone Wars.
All right. That's the guy with the robot legs is Darth Maul.
That's another robot leg.
He is one of the resistance fighters in Clone Wars, and he's very young in the show. He's probably early 20s in the show, and he's one of the main characters in 1 or 2 episodes. And I'm not a huge fan of Clone Wars. I've seen all of them, but I'm not a massive fan of that show. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, it is horribly, horribly bad. But that character in particular, when I heard that that's who Forrest Whitaker was playing, my first reaction was, oh, that's kind of cool. Because it does the tie-in to Clone Wars and now Rebels is an important tie-in, because now that is canon. I'm not a huge EW fan or EU fan. I never was.
Yeah.
I think that, after those first Timothy Zahn books, I stopped reading them all together. Where Chewbacca dies and all that stuff. I was like, I'm not reading them.
Personally, to me, it's not the books. I like the Dark Horse stuff.
Oh, I see. Yeah. I see where you're going.
But did they put Morgan Freeman bumps on Forrest Whitaker's face, or did he grow those naturally? Like, I haven't seen him in a while.
I as much as a fan of Forrest Whitaker as I am, and I don't know. I'm going to guess that it's a natural occurrence.
No, that's makeup.
Okay.
Oh, there you go.
Because the last time I saw him might have been The Crying Game, and something else captured my attention.
He's got a lot of stuff on our left side, his right, under. Let's be honest, the good eye. That's makeup.
And the guy's pretty well off. He makes a good living. Why doesn't he get that eyelid fixed? It's not heart surgery.
Because he's become like, that's him now. You can't not do that.
Well, then why not get the other one lowered and be twice as cool?
I wonder if they ever tried that in VA hospitals. Look, that one leg is off. If you do the other one off, it's going to be super boss.
But to get back to my problems with this, and they're all nits. There's so many little nits. Like Lyra Erso, Jen Erso's mom. Mm-hmm. Why is she wearing the same clothes as the Jedis do?
Hey, it's a fashion choice. It's comfortable. But I mean, some people need to breathe, if you catch my drift.
They made such a point that in the prequels that, look, this is the garb of the Jedi. This is what they all wear. Yeah. And yet, and it's fine, that in Star Wars, Uncle Owen is wearing the same thing, and that. But now we're in this new version of Star Wars. Like everything's getting cleaned up. This movie exists because the original has this gaping plot hole, all of this stuff. So why do that? Why then make the garb the exact same as the Jedi's uniform, basically?
Look, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and skip an email for everybody. Sean, you saying ladies can't be no Jedis? What's up?
That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that she's not a Jedi. So why is she wearing Jedi clothes?
I don't know.
She got a good deal on it at Intergalactic Goodwill, man. Times were tough. They were living out in a bunker, for heaven's sake.
Yeah, that's true. They're on a farm.
Yeah, like the first one said that it is a time of chaos in the Galactic Empire, yada, yada, yada. So, hard times.
Yeah, and you got to remember, we're pretty deep into a post-Jedi world. I mean, Jedi aren't really a thing anymore. Nobody knows about Obi-Wan except for, Bail Organa might be the only one who knows about it, that he's still alive. So maybe people kind of dress like it as a show of sympathy or something for the cause, for the rebellion.
Right, but you're in war times, and these are the people that the Empire hates the most. It's kind of like someone dressing up as Hitler.
Okay, I have to concede. I have no argument to answer that.
I thought Bruce was saying they're like fake B-boys in 1987.
But there was that brief period of time when Michael Jordan was rocking that stash.
That is very true. And thank God he finally got rid of it. Still has the pirate hoop earring, though. Ridiculous.
It's a good look for the man.
This is more of this is the smallest nit ever. And it looks really cool when it happens, but it happens twice in the movie. Krennic's ship lands on planet, and he's got to walk 3.5 miles to get to where he is. Every single time. Both times that ship lands, he's got a battalion with him. They have to walk with him. Yes, I understand that it looks cool. They're wearing plastic armor, and it's gotta hurt. Walking through wetlands and everything else. Why are you parked so far away? Why are you parked so far away from where you're supposed to be?
Drama, my dear boy. Drama.
Because none of the people he was going to kill would validate.
You think I'm parking over there and spending $20 for what's easily going to be 30 minutes? I don't think so.
I ate at the pizza place, for God's sake. You saw me walk in there.
I can hear him now. Just park here. Last time we circled the lot for 4 hours and didn't find anything closer.
You always think there's going to be a spot up front. There's never a spot up front. Never.
What you don't know is that all the close patches of grass are designated for handicapped battleship pilots.
But basically those are all of my complaints with this.
Okay, we better start pouring on the positive because people are going to think this is a negative review, and it's not.
No, not at all. in any way. We pick on these things because we love this thing.
Yeah. And honestly, and I think if you're a true Star Wars fan, you can't help but kind of do some of that. And I think it's kind of oddly ingrained in us, especially, after the prequels and stuff. I mean, and because I think at this point as well, we also have to kind of allow ourselves to, see everything for what it is. Because I know everyone that came out of episode 1 the first time was just like, no, it's not that bad. No, there's it's got a couple of things in it, but there's a lot to be had in this. And we all saw it 5 times, and every time we're just trying to really justify why it's really good, and it doesn't really work out as well as we want it to.
Yeah, that kid was he had charisma or something.
He's not the most traditional choice, but there's a couple of moments where it happens, and
wasn't it nice how absolutely every single thing tied up so neatly.
Now let's
get back to the good movie here. Let's get back to Rogue One. I want to get some first impressions. Did you guys know that Tarkin was going to be featured in this movie? Because I thought they would just have to find a workaround.
I was
pleasantly surprised when I saw Peter Cushing on the screen.
Here's what mine was, right? So the first time that we're introduced to Tarkin, you see the back of his head and a reflection of his face in a window. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool how they're going to just kind of give us this nice little hey man, here's where he is. I had no idea he was going to be a full-blown character who would have boatloads of lines and interactions. I was blown away.
He does more in this movie than the movie he was alive for.
Exactly.
Absolutely, man. I thought it was wonderful. And something else that's funny, I thought the CGI was good. I thought it was spot on. But my wife kind of leaned over next to me, who doesn't really know that much about the situation. And she said, why is that guy all CGI? And I was like, well, he's dead, sweetheart. That's Peter Cushing. But she could tell, and I couldn't. But she has an eye for that stuff. She's, the artist in the family. I mean,
I've got a pretty good eye for that kind of stuff. And I'm saying it was 90% on of being almost we're at uncanny valley territory here, to where it was so darn close. I mean, I figure, in 5-10 more years, we're going to have this licked 100%, because
Hollywood's going to find a way to make movies without actors.
I'm telling you, it was as close as they can get. But people are going it looks like Final Fantasy Spirits Within. It's been a while. Go rewatch that movie. It doesn't look as good as you think.
It's not even close.
But it looks and here's the thing, and I'll say this, it applies a little bit more to Leia than it does for his character. But I think at the same time, because we want to be nice to the memory of Peter Cushing, right? We want to be nice to Carrie Fisher and Leia. But the thing is we have to show a little bit more of the actual kind of defaults with human skin and lighting and things of that nature. Because if you look back at New Hope and stuff, Peter Cushing, while the main characteristics are all there, there's just slight little skin discolorations and other things that if you look at it from a piece of paper standpoint, kind of looks a little bit shoddy. You would touch those up in Photoshop, but by you touching those up in the CGI takes away from the realness of that. So you need a little bit more. It needs there needs to be just a little bit more of the imperfections that help us buy that, and still I think 5 to 8% of where the CGI falls off, and this is always the case. It's pretty darn tough. Is in the eyes. The eyes are always the toughest darn thing to get in there.
So my solution would have been let's put the Grand Moff in some sunglasses for this movie.
But the digital
he's a blues man in this incarnation.
But
give him a harmonica to play after every sentence.
The digital sunglasses.
In the business, we call that the Leslie patch.
But it's so darn close, and the voice is really good. It is one of those things that, man, if you allow yourself, you're going. A guy who's been dead for 20 years is back alive, or almost 30 years at this point.
And
I'm sorry, Bruce. Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if either of you are familiar enough, because I kind of think I would be the one who might know this, and I don't. the idea that kyber crystals were the power source for the Death Star, is that something that had shown up before this movie? Because I had never thought of it that way, and I thought that was a great way to explain things.
Now, I don't.
It is new. It's a new concept. At least anything like that's canonized, that's not something that's been explored before, unless like somebody wrote some crappy novel. That
now, I know there's some sort of crystal or something that has something to do with like lightsabers and stuff like that.
Well, that is the kyber crystal that does the
crystal.
lightsabers.
Oh,
but I'd never heard of the Death Star being described as just basically a giant lightsaber.
Okay,
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. That I don't know.
But I thought that was a cool idea. Plus, it's a nice way to explain the difficulty in obtaining new lightsabers and whatever happens after The Force Awakens.
Hey, Avatar just called it unobtainium. Why don't you just take that?
Hard to get him. That's what I call it. Hard to get him.
Hard to get him. I like that.
I also thought it was great that the kyber crystal that's around Jen's neck is not what they're going after to try to get the Death Star to work. Because that was one of my fears going into this movie.
Yeah.
This was given to me by my mom. It's the last kyber crystal in the galaxy. No.
It's the one piece that's missing, and it has exactly that size in the Death Star,
Yes.
and able for you to put it in to make it work.
I thought it was very effective shorthand to tell us why Galen was so important to the Death Star, because he's like the galaxy's foremost kyber crystallarian or whatever.
Yeah, I thought that was a
Kyber
smart move,
crystallogist.
I'll be honest,
Yeah.
I didn't even know
And
Mads
also, it's good to
Mikkelsen was in
balance your
this.
chi, from what I understand.
Just put it on that third eye, baby. But I didn't know Mads Mikkelsen was in this thing. Like, I mean, honestly, I kept away from so much because I did not want to know I wanted to know as little as humanly possible. And I was just like, get out of town. Mads Mikkelsen's in this joint too. I was stoked about that.
Hey, I was hoping his eyes would start to look strange by the end, like Caecilius.
You don't want to mess with this dude.
So we're talking about stuff we like, and I have my like a little list here that I wrote down, just as a shorthand. Vader in the back of the tank was awesome. I know that you have a problem, Adam, with Walrus Man and his doctor buddy showing up. I thought that was great. The Hammerhead Corvette, come on, that's awesome.
That is awesome, man. And the Corvette class is used very heavily in the old EU, so that was a nice shout out to it.
Very cool. The best part of the movie to me is Vader just opening up cans in that hallway. That was so awesome.
Now, for me personally, the best part of the movie is just the knowledge that all those actors had to have those terrible 1977 mustaches and haircuts for the filming of this movie so that they would blend so well into the aesthetic of the original Wedge Antilles and company.
I think you mean awesome?
Yeah, I'm going for that look next week.
I loved it. I thought everybody looked great. Everybody looked kind of, 70s futuristic appropriate, which was important.
It was amazing to me how well they blended with the aesthetics of 77.
And astonishingly, this was shot, the majority of it was shot, in digital, which was another thing that's quite astounding, that shows you that Gareth Edwards really knows what the heck he's doing.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Because this thing looks darn good.
It does. It looks great.
Looks better than Godzilla did.
Well, yeah,
I hold that movie in judgment. I can't stand that movie.
I like that movie, but this one was, the nice thing is this one I believe was shot in 6K, so it could also stand the big blow-ups when you do the IMAX and things of that nature, and with the the Super 35 framing and everything. It's good. It's very good. I like it.
And let's talk about for a second just the way that Gareth Edwards and the writers of this movie, they could have gone a step too far on a couple of these things, and they didn't. Like Boba Fett and Han Solo didn't show up in this movie.
Thank God.
Things like that. But I mean, they did reshoots, and during the reshoots, they had cast Han Solo. They could have put him in this movie, and they didn't. I thought that was a really nice touch, what they didn't do in this movie.
Now, I want to talk about a couple of more new characters that we got introduced to, because there were some that were better than others, but I thought they mostly worked really well. But the first one I want to ask about is Cassian Andor, Diego Luna's character. what was he in A2 Mama Tambien or something? Like I don't know the guy very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
and,
that's where he came to prominence. Yeah.
So he was a fresh face to me, but of the new characters they introduced, he may have been my least favorite.
Wow, really? I thought that character was great.
I think I'm supposed to. They did a good job of conveying the fact that he follows orders more than his morals, I guess you could say. The way when we first meet the guy, he's killing the person that just gave him some information instead of helping him out. And I know that he's going to kill Saul. So, there's like the lovable rogue like Han Solo. They tried to pull a little bit of a Han Solo with Cassian, but it just didn't work for me. Didn't endear him to me the way I think they had intended to by what he did at the end there when he kind of helps, I want to call her Rey, helps Jenna out at the end.
I don't think that's what that character's there for. I think that character is specifically there to show you that not everyone's like Han.
Well, it worked. But I didn't like him.
Well, I mean, I knew,
him a lot.
like when he killed that dude, like I knew that was something that just had to be done because it was like I think he like took that situation and just goes, if this guy's still alive, I'm gonna die.
And because
he just had that kind of air about him.
Something that's going to be recurrent here as I talk about what I really like about this movie is that a mega studio like Disney actually made some both what I would consider brave and unexpected choices, which are exceedingly rare for a movie you pump this kind of money into. Mm-hmm. One of those, one thing I'm giving them credit for is giving us an unlikable protagonist and not apologizing for it for the most part. They do try to redeem him a little bit, but they do things here that you just don't do if you're painting by numbers. And, I admire that because it worked well. Now, if it failed, I would have said, why didn't they just follow the formula? But it worked for me. So I really, really, really have a great deal of admiration for Gareth Edwards because of the decisions made in this movie.
Bronson, shut up.
I agree with you. I think that, the characters in this movie, although there's not a whole lot of characterization. I'm sorry, there's not a bunch of character development in this movie. There's a lot of characterization. I think that that's done on purpose. I think that if you don't want to know everything about a lot of these characters, I don't need to know. I don't need to know Donnie Yen's backstory.
And it also can get to the point where you're just going, and here's every line of dialogue can sound like, and here's the backstory to inform you of where all of my character traits and everything comes from for me. I hope you enjoyed that backstory. Now back to our regular story. Every line can start sounding like that if you're not careful.
But if there is a Chirrut Imwe or whatever his name is, if there is a miniseries that Marvel puts out about this guy's backstory, I'll be picking it up because he was probably my favorite new character here.
And I think that's going to be where you're going to see, because a lot of people are going, and again, you guys all know this at this point, but spoilers. Everyone dies in this for the most part, but
that's the boldest thing they did.
Yeah,
what I was referring to before, and I just had such admiration because I started to see that is where this movie's going. Like there's a point where you start to realize, okay, our heroes are not going to survive this. This is a story of sacrifice. This is kind of like the intergalactic version of 300 in a way. And I did not think they'd have the courage to do that.
But I see this is like,
I thought it was going to be like a 300 thing where one guy survives and carries on. I was so surprised that didn't happen.
But I think this will go through and open up in Marvel's comics and stuff. I mean, because Poe Dameron's got his own solo series now in Marvel, so I don't.
But Poe Dameron's going to be in more than one movie.
Fair
These
enough.
people aren't.
But my point is that I think they're going to easily carry these on in comic books and give them others, like other previous stories and things of that nature. I think that's an easy slam dunk for them.
And what's the name of the actress that played Jen? She's been in some other stuff.
Felicity Jones.
Yeah, so I can just hear the call from her agent. Okay, here's the good news. I got you a deal with Star Wars, but it's a one-picture deal.
Well, here's the thing, Bruce. Now I'm gonna throw a little knowledge on you. Technically, she has an option for another movie in there.
Oh man, Rogue Zero?
I don't know, but
Force Ghost, Jin the Force Ghost Adventures.
It's whether or not they option it to actually make it happen, but there's a thing where she could do another.
And it could be a flashback or something, who knows? Who knows? Yeah. But wow, that's interesting. Or maybe that was to throw people off the path. You get the option, you're never going to exercise it, but the way that the business side of movies gets out so much quicker than the story side, I think that was a good way to to keep their bluff up until the movie came out.
Oh, it's funny.
That's a pretty smart move.
It's funny because I saw a thing where, you know, like on a Facebook post where somebody had posted up like, you know, like a slash film or something was just like, oh, she's she's scheduled for possible 2 movies maybe. And then one guy was coming in and just goes, "Come on, dude, spoilers, man. I don't know that, you know, now I know she lives." And I was just like, well, maybe you don't know as much as you think you know, player.
Oh man. But the blind master, you know, some tropes are tropey, but some tropes are just stinking awesome, and that's why they exist. And I love the blind kung fu master trope, and I'm glad we got it here. And Donnie Yen, Ip Man, in a Star Wars movie. I never thought I'd see it.
I absolutely I've loved Donnie Yen for years and years and years, and think he's never really gotten his true appropriate American love that he properly deserves. And I really hope this opens up more things for him to be in bigger American things, to really, you know, just get the guy the money he deserves over all of these years, man. He's delivered for so long. I really just hope he just gets everything.
Yeah, he's good, man. He's wonderful. His character is wonderful. His performance is wonderful. His corniness could use some work, but he's good.
And Bruce, before I get into my next point here, did you become a fan of Donnie Yen's character specifically in the moment where they put the bag over his head?
Yes. Well, no, I liked him. I liked him going into it. But that was a moment that needs to be put on a T-shirt in my closet.
Are you serious? I'm blind.
Are you kidding me? I'm blind.
Oh, so
I loved it, man. There's so many movies though that wouldn't think about that. You know, right. I loved it.
It probably was an ADR line, but like it's one that they did well.
We haven't even talked about my favorite character in this movie yet. I love Orson Krennic. I love that character so much.
Okay, I want to hear more about this because he really felt like he should have been in episode 1. This actor did a good job with the role.
Yeah, and I think this is also a character that, from what I've kind of seen from people, has been a little bit polarizing. So please.
Oh, man. One of the things that we don't get a lot of in Star Wars is middle management. You know, you're either the emperor or you're a farm boy. There's no one who's making things work. You know what I mean? Like the people who actually have the wheels to the road. Mm-hmm. And that is who Director Krennic is. He is. Yeah. The Emperor and Darth Vader have all these really awesome ideas, but they're not the ones doing it. Orson Krennic is actually one of those guys who's making things happen. And that's what I really like about this character is that there is a wariness to him where it's got, I don't know if it's in the writing or if it's just Mendelsohn's performance in it, which by the way was incredible. There is a wariness to his character where it's like, man, that guy is put upon all the time.
He's like the second unit director that does a bang up job and then watches Gareth Edwards get all the credit.
Exactly. And there's something about this character where if you learn something like this is a character that needs a comic book. Is Krennic, or needs to be in the comics, where he shows up before he gets killed and all that stuff. That character is so endlessly fascinating to me because he's not good with the politics. Clearly he gets run out of town once Governor Tarkin takes over the Death Star.
Yeah.
It's things like that where it's just like this guy is one of the guys that makes everything work in this universe. And there's something.
And the actor nails it, man. Who is the actor again?
Ben Mendelsohn.
He just nails it.
Yeah.
And in the right light, he looks a little bit like Dustin Hoffman.
Huh. And I kind of wish that for Tarkin here, instead of Governor Tarkin, he would have just been regular Moff Tarkin, and then he becomes Grand Moff later.
Original flavored Moff Tarkin.
I don't want that extra zesty stuff. No, thank you.
Now, there's a very, very important new character we got to talk about, and this tall, cool drink of water really worked well with me, in large part because I've got kind of a soft spot for Alan Tudyk. What'd you guys think of K2SO?
Loved it. This was the C-3PO we all deserved.
Yeah.
I was far more interested to hear what Adam thought about it because I love that character, but that character is there specifically and built specifically because this is the darkest Star Wars movie we've ever had. Mm-hmm. And so you need to have a little bit of levity, and that's what that character is in there for. And I thought it worked perfectly. I like that there's a bit of bloodthirst to him. I
think the movie where about 30 kids got slaughtered was kind of dark too, but I'm going with you.
We didn't see those kids get slaughtered, though.
Oh, we would have if I had my way.
Not those younglings. Not the younglings.
Oh, no. But no, he was K2SO was great. And I like how he's big. I don't know why that makes it so interesting, but he's just a giant character. I love that he's, repurposed from the Empire.
We've seen this same class of Imperial droid before, but they've always been like seated behind a desk. We've never seen him walk like this.
Yeah, he's got a nice personality and everything, and like I said, it was that levity that you needed in the otherwise pretty dark and depressing stuff going on. That people have said this is very Empire-esque in its tone and everything, but like that, there's a lot of fun to be had as well if you look in the right places.
And I guess the last new characters that I'll talk about here is how about that group of like 15 red shirts they rolled onto the cargo plane before they went to raid Seraph or whatever.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. All of you are going to die.
I think in the interest of time, because there's some points to be made, I think we should start talking about the third act here.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first thing I will say is I loved, and it kind of clicked at first, but going all the way back to 1977, there's no question that the Imperials were very, very closely designed to reflect the Nazis. But the way they had this band of Marines on the beach, wearing what looked like World War II GI helmets. One guy even had cigarettes, it looked like, tucked down in the band of his helmet. We've got explosions with water flying up, a Saving Private Ryan-esque scene of them storming the beach. I thought that was really nice to say, hey, World War II, we're going to roll with it here. You could have just as easily have told me that this was Sergeant Fury with his Howling Commandos or Sergeant Rock with Easy Company. I like that vibe, and I always liked that style of stuff anyway.
Yeah, I think everyone's kind of like made the statement of all these Star Wars movies, this one has the most wars in it, And it's absolutely true. And I think we kind of needed some of that because at the same time, too, there becomes a point with not only just Star Wars, but a lot of movies in general that are kind of this nature, that are PG-13, that are kind of like, in that kind of middle ground area to where you're not willing to kill off enough people. I mean, there's a reason why people, like stuff like Game of Thrones and Westworld and stuff like that. It's like people can just die. You know what I'm saying?
And you make a good point, too, about this has the most actual war in it because those prequels could have been called Star Diplomacy, I guess.
Yeah. Let's sit down and have another Senate meeting, shall we?
Well, the other problem with those movies is that there is an entire planet-wide siege happening, and you don't see any of the siege happening.
Yeah.
But I liked it. I liked the kind of thing. And you're right. There are a couple of points in this where it is kind of video game-esque, where you got to get to the point, and then. But it worked well enough for me. It's still kind of like edge of your seat, and that's what I think is one of the biggest points to this movie. Is that even though at the end of the day we still know that the plans get delivered, which is the ultimate goal of this,
and it's here in the third act too, because. Once that I realized everybody was going to die because you knew that all those unnamed characters that were flying in the back of the cargo Rogue One were dead meat. You just kind of knew that because they didn't even bother to give most of them names. But when I see Donnie Yen, when I see him actually go down, doing his thing, that's when it kind of clicks because if you're going to keep anybody alive for another movie, it's going to be this interesting character. And that's when I started to watch as K2SO died and then as other characters died. And I knew that there's no way Jyn is getting off of this base here. Yeah.
And Bodhi dies. And I think after I saw Bodhi die, I was like, oh, yeah, everyone's gone in this movie.
And I started to get that feeling where, like, after 7 2/3 innings, you realize that a pitcher has a perfect game going, and you're just watching in awe to see if he can keep it through to the ninth. Like, once I realized everybody's going to die, are they actually going to do something so new and unexpected, not only in a big-budget Star Wars movie, but in a prequel where you think everything has to kind of play according to plan. And I was just sitting there hoping they didn't mess it up and watching and afraid to even like say anything about it. It's like bad luck to even to say the words out loud. It's a suicide mission, and they pulled it off. And it's rare in a movie that I can foresee an ending and still absolutely love it when it comes.
Well, there's two things. There's two things that this movie really has going for it. The third act of this movie is pretty terrific. The space battle in this movie is incredible. And having Vader truck after the plans.
And that's almost like denouement, epilogue territory there, because our main characters have already died, and then we realize that this is happening literally simultaneously with the beginning of episode 4.
Oh, so good, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess one of the small nitpicks that I kind of wish that would have been there that kind of make me like just upon further thinking, they get away in their ship and everything. I wish they would have like gone away in a separate, different type of ship and moved over different ships later, because they literally see them walk out the door with it, right?
Yeah.
So the beginning to where it was just like, oh, you weren't on any mercy mission this time, sort of thing. It's like, of course you know that they know that because you literally saw me leave the docking bay, if you will.
And if you're going to CGI Princess Leia into this, and maybe you guys think that they shouldn't have done this, but instead of having her say her little thing about hope, what you should just have is you're not in the room with her. You're looking down a corridor and through a doorway, and you see her bending over, talking to R2, recording the message, Obi-Wan, you're our only hope. That's kind of what I wanted to see.
Well, no, see, that I don't need that, but I wish it would have even, like, if it were a CGI shot, just be like a far CGI shot or something like that, or just show the back of her head and then like the hand accepting, the notes or whatever. I just don't know that we needed to see her or that and have that particular line. It's okay, but I don't know that it made more people go, oh, well, that's not as good as the other stuff. And that, I think that takes away.
A little bit.
But overall, but I also like, and I mentioned a little bit earlier, I kind of wanted to come back to it to show how kind of cool thoughts Gareth Edwards kind of had on this and everything. So while he was over at ILM and stuff, giving them the grand tour and all this kind of jazz and going through all the stuff, he happens to see some old, kind of cans over in the corner or whatnot, for however this is.
Are you talking about Carrie Fisher when you say he saw old cans over in the corner?
Gosh. You're incorrigible. But he sees these old things and he's just like, what's over in these cans and stuff? And they're like, that's Star Wars, buddy. And so it turns out there was a whole bunch of footage and stuff that had never actually been used or even digitized for that matter. So that's where we see a couple of things in the final run there where we get some of the other characters and stuff that we'd seen in New Hope. There was actual unused New Hope footage within this movie.
Very nice.
Representing those guys and everything. They just kind of, cleaned her up, CGI'd inappropriate things and whatnot, and used actual, New Hope footage. And I thought that was super, super cool. And he's like, and even Edwards was just like, I don't even know how much of this could really, it's a lot of work for not a lot of gain. But still kind of decided, hey, that's something that we need to do and make it look cool. And it worked for me. Because it was like, oh my gosh, wow, we get to see, more people that we know. But it like this, unlike some of the other things, didn't feel like a big giant slap going, hey, buddy, check it out. And I'm like, okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. So are we about wrapped up here?
I think we're about to.
So.
So let's because we're all nerds and we live within nerd culture. Rank your Star Wars like best to worst.
Okay. I'm going last because I know mine's going to be a little bit different. Let's start with Bruce.
Okay, so I'm going to go Empire, Star Wars, Force Awakens, Jedi. No, I'm going to go Rogue One, Force Awakens, Jedi, and then I think I probably like the episode 2, 3, then 1.
Okay.
That's my and holiday special somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere. You never know.
Ewok Adventures are to the side.
Okay. Keenan, what do you think?
Well, for me, it goes Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, Star Wars, Force Awakens, this movie, Episode 3, Episode 1, Episode 2, Star Wars Christmas Special, Ewok Adventure, Ewok Caravan of Courage.
Oh, good. Glad we got the Caravan of Courage in there. That's important. I'm gonna go. So I'm a little bit different. Everybody goes Empire, and don't get me wrong. I think as far as like from a pure cinema standpoint, Empire is the better movie. But it just kind of goes to more memories and stuff because I grew up in a Star Wars household, and so I've seen New Hope longer than anything out there, and it's won by just the hairest of hairs, a hair on the Chewbacca head, if you will. So Star Wars, Empire. Then I would probably go Rogue One. Then it's tough to not Rogue One. Excuse me. 7. Force Awakens, rather.
Force Awakens.
Force Awakens. Then Rogue One. Then Jedi. Then 2. Or excuse me, 3, 1, and then 2. Yeah.
So both of you guys like Force Awakens better than this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Something about knowing that this is an encapsulated one-shot movie, that we're never going to see these characters again, gives it just a little bit more value to me in some abstract way.
I could see that.
For me, it's about the magic, and there is a touch of magic that's gone from this movie.
And I think we all can agree that Felicity Jones is fine, but Daisy Ridley blew my mind. So when it comes to the female lead, I definitely will nod my hat to The Force Awakens. But The Force Awakens was, so much a retelling of Episode 4 to me, where this seems so new.
Yeah, but then again, too, it's like you had her character in comparison is way underdeveloped than Daisy Ridley's character. I mean, this is like seeing the Dirty Dozen and just going like, oh, this guy doesn't get enough juice in here. So I wanted more Fred Williamson.
There's that feeling. I mean, they had to kill Jen at the end of this movie because what we see from her, if she had survived, they'd really have no need for that kid on Tatooine. It seems like. That's true. This girl was remarkable. Or this woman was remarkable. So if she had survived, it changes everything. So they had to kill her. But I'm way more into Daisy Ridley's performance and Rey. But it's not fair to compare anybody to something like that because it was just like a high watermark for anybody.
And I do want to mention just again because I'd kind of forgotten and my thought was there. But I do like how it's always kind of we do get the use of the Death Star, but it's always in very testing phases and stuff, which also kind of like really bridges over into New Hope more, where he just goes, it's time to show the full operational, status of this battle station, which I thought was cool.
Yeah,
that we can kind of see.
I'm glad
it can
I'm
still
glad
do
they
its
preserve,
thing, but it doesn't, blow anything up.
I'm glad they preserved some kind of purity for it, but there's still a part of me that like to think that the first time it was ever fired was Alderaan.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to have a couple test runs, right?
You got to test that sucker, man. Come on.
But it was so cool, like just the kind of nuclear style explosion and everything, and them like kind of just hold themselves on the beach because they see
I like to picture
doom coming.
I like to picture him testing it in New Mexico with Han Solo in a refrigerator.
I mean, how do we know Space Jimmy Smits is dead if they haven't tested it first?
And I'll say this: first time we've seen Jimmy Smits, and I'm like, good. I like enough time has passed and everything and he didn't overstay his welcome, but I like seeing a little Bail Organa up in there, man. It made sense.
Of course,
of
course. Mon Mothma, Bail Organa, come on.
Good stuff, man.
What's wrong with that? Nothing.
The last thing I'll say, sort of in the compare-contrast between this and A Force Awakens, I felt like The Force Awakens was made to bring Star Wars to a new generation. I felt like this one was made to serve the old-school fans.
And to just wrap up the one kind of point that was, always kind of sticking in everybody's craw is like, hey, man, why would you leave this one thing here? And then this movie finally answered, goes, no, that was done on purpose so this could happen. Like, that's totally dope, man. And like, it's just the question that people have had for darn near 40 years has now been, corrected just by, one movie. I love it. All right. Now, before we get to our proper review here and everything, for those of you who are new to the show, we do this for every single movie because, believe it or not, every superhero movie can be related back to our good friend, Sylvester Stallone.
Oh, thank you, Adam. I have a prepared statement.
Oh.
Today's subject of the Stallone connection started working in 1952 on the soap opera The Guiding Light. That was so long ago, a pound of ground beef cost 53 cents. I looked it up. Why did I choose to look up how much ground beef cost in 1952? Look, sometimes people do things they have no real answer for. Well, this fella would move on to some more prestigious movies like the sequel to Casper. He also worked on Scary Movie 4, and he's also the voice of Darth Vader because today's Stallone connection is James frickin' Earl Stinkin' Jones.
Woo! Woo-hoo!
James Earl Jones was born James Earl Jones in 1931. And wouldn't you know it, he hasn't stopped being James Earl Jones since. He's one of those guys that everybody likes, sort of like the reverse feeling everyone gets while thinking about LL Cool J's acting career. James Earl Jones has lived a life that would make a great biopic, and I have a great idea for it. First, you cast people to play James Earl Jones throughout the years, but you have James Earl Jones do all the voiceover work, even as a baby. Nailed it. Nailed it. He's an Army veteran. He's the first real celebrity to show up on Sesame Street. He's the first African-American to play the president on film. And he used to own a CB radio where his handle was Darth Vader.
Oh, my gosh.
I also found the weird thing. He's never met David Prowse, the guy who played Darth Vader in the costume. But that probably has more to do with the fact that David Prowse still hates that they dubbed over his voice in 1977. Mm-hmm. But, you know, David, maybe it's time to let that go because Darth Vader loses a little something when he sounds like a guy who's trying to sell you a sheep. James Earl Jones also has no problem talking to the press about Star Wars. And in fact, about The Empire Strikes Back, he's quoted as saying, "When I read that part in the script where it said, 'Luke, I am your father,' I thought, oh, he's lying. I have to see how they carry this lie out." And while James Earl Jones has worked on many, many terrible projects, many terrific projects that warm my nerd heart, like 1,000 substantiated Star Wars rumors, it's hard to believe. But James Earl Jones has also worked on a lot of terrible, awful, no good projects. Mm-hmm. Here's just a few of the TV shows he's been on. According to Jim, awful. Big Bang Theory, the writers of the show should be ashamed of themselves. 2.5 Men, the most unfunny comedy ever made. And the Star Wars Holiday Special. No comment. And here's some of the wretched movies he's been in. Adam Sandler's Click, Meteor Man, Benchwarmers, and Sylvester Stallone's Judge Dredd. Yes, eventually everyone works for Walmart, and eventually all actors work for Sylvester Stallone. And I dug like a digger who enjoys his job digging, trying to find anything James Earl Jones had to say about his experience on Judge Dredd. But the best thing I could come up with was this quote from his book called James Earl Jones, Voices and Silences. James Earl Jones says, "My voice is for hire. My endorsement is not for hire. I will do a voiceover, but I cannot endorse it without making a different kind of commitment. My politics are very personal and subjective." And I like to think that he wrote that passage minutes after he walked out of the recording studio for Judge Dredd. But the truth is, his book came out in 1993, and Judge Dredd was made in 1995. Oh. And while he might have worked on a bunch of garbage, you cannot deny the fact that he's also been in a lot of really, really, really terrific nerdy projects. So there you have it, HMPers. This week's Stallone Connection. Now, Darth Portrais and Boba Leslie, let's review this movie so we can wait 52 more weeks for the next Star Wars.
Mm-hmm. Now, one of the cool things about, to give you an idea of how cool, James Earl Jones is, he doesn't go to any of these Star Wars conventions, and it's not because he doesn't want to. It's because he refuses to charge people for his autograph.
And, he didn't want to step on Prowse's toes, I would imagine. I could see that just being out of respect for Prowse. It goes to
Prowse
all of
is old. He could take Prowse. Prowse is like barely being able to walk these days.
This is not a joke. David Prowse came to one of my local comic shops in the past 2 months.
What?
Yeah.
But, if you send James Earl Jones like a headshot, he'll just sign it and send it back to you. So,
that's great.
I mean, that's a dude who just does it, man, and that's why he doesn't go to these things. He's like, I can't charge these people for my autograph. That's uncouth. And so, props to that guy. All right, now, for those of you who are new to the show, we have a rating system in this on this here podcast. We don't do stars. We don't do letters. We have our own, just silly garbage. It's called a patented Robin rating system. And if you'd like to know what that is, go to facebook.com/Hero Movie Podcast. It's right there at the top of the screen to give you an idea as to where the Robins lie. So, Bruce, where does Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, land on the HMP Robin rating system for you, sir?
Well, first off, when Sean mentioned James Earl Jones doing the voice of a baby, I thought immediately that John Travolta and Kirstie Alley need to make another movie. But back to the movie we're talking about here. I was a little disappointed there was no Anna Paquin. What am I going to say, man? I've already said I liked it better than The Force Awakens. And I'm pretty sure I gave The Force Awakens a Dick Grayson. So I got to give this one a Dick Grayson. Where else am I going to go? I've just talked about what a rare experience this was for me. That moment of awe in the third act when I realized everyone is going to die. They should call this Rogue One, Everybody Dies. It's awesome.
Very true. Keenan, what you got?
For me, it's a Dick Grayson as well. And, one of the things that I think I talked about on our Force Awakens episode last year, my kids hated Star Wars. Well, one of my kids, my oldest daughter, hated Star Wars. She has seen Rogue One twice now. She once with me, once with her friends. She loves this movie, which is a testament to what they're trying to do with this franchise, which is that because one of my daughter's problems is she doesn't like watching movies that look old. She's just in that phase of her life right now. She's 19. Everything that's old is stupid. And so she can't watch Star Wars. The pacing of that movie, it's paced like a movie from the 70s. I might as well take her to the dentist. It's the same thing. Going to the dentist and watching Star Wars, A New Hope, is the same thing in her head. These movies, Force Awakens and now Rogue One, she loves both of these movies. She thinks that they're terrific, and she specifically loves Rogue One. And I think that this is probably going to be the case moving on with a lot of this, is that, I don't know if Bruce is old enough, but Adam, you might not be old enough here. When I was a kid, I went to see Star Wars with my dad, and my dad liked Star Wars because I liked Star Wars. He didn't necessarily like the movies that much, but his friends, it seemed like the dumbest thing in the world to his friends. Like those movies are so stupid. I do not want to feel like that person down the road when they start amping up more and more and more, because I don't know about you guys. I can feel it coming where we're going to be in a phase of Star Wars pretty soon where it's not going to feel like our Star Wars anymore. And that's fine with me. I'm totally fine with that.
I think we may even kind of be there, but I still like what they're giving us.
Yeah, me too. But the magic of Force Awakens versus the gritty realism of this movie, it's still a Dick Grayson. I really love this movie.
Excellent. All right, so on to me. This is a tough one. This is a really tough one, and at this point, I've only seen it the once, and so it gets me just shy of saying Dick Grayson, and so I'm gonna go the strongest of Tim Drakes. I'll save it possibly going up to a Dick Grayson if I see it a second time. That may sway me a touch, but as it stands right now, I thoroughly enjoyed my time. Really loved it, even with the small nits that we kind of picked up front and everything. I still had a blast. I really liked it. I thought it looked great. And I thought this was a great start for the kind of one-off series that we're doing. I'm interested to kind of see what they do with the Han Solo stuff, but I'm going to be honest with you. After that, I really think we need to get off the connected train to the the Skywalker universe, if you will.
No way, man, because Kenobi's going to be the next standalone, and
I feel that.
Han, aren't they deep in production on the Han and Lando movie too?
Probably deep in pre. I think they're shooting early next year.
They've cast
but that's confirmed. I mean, the next thing.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I hope they get off that train because there's so much stuff to explore that I really think that we could start a whole brand new thing. Keep us in that universe. There's so much stuff, from early, Knights of the Old Republic stuff that happens, thousands of years before, the original trilogy and everything to stuff that's past.
How about a Dr. Aphra movie? That'd be awesome too.
Yeah. I would. Oh man, that's one I would camp out for.
So there's
the second time I saw it, I would still camp out.
I
want to see Dr. Aphra. The way they're giving us these strong females, they need the bad guy version, and that's Aphra.
Mm-hmm.
So, I foresee that. I hope that's where they kind of land a little bit more in the future, because as much as I like the Skywalker stuff, I think we need to venture out and give us more of the stars in the war. You know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, strong Dick, Tim Drake for me on this one. So. All right, so that is it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening. Next week is the end of the year. And at the end of the year here, we go back and we take a little bit of a look at the year in HMP. We give out some awards. It's kind of like our Oscar season, if you will. We got a lot of nominees. We got some award winners. People are taking home plaques if we made plaques. But they would take them home if they would show up. And I still don't think any of them are going to show up as they darn well should. And it also gives us a chance to go back and re-review any of the movies that we had reviewed in the year. So if we kind of saw something else a couple other times, felt a little bit better, a little bit worse about it, we can change it then and everything. So, stay tuned, stay subscribed for all that kind of good stuff as well. Until then, Bruce, where can we find more of your work on the internet this week, sir?
Hey, if you like Bat Magic, you're going to love Chubby Wizard. So go check out chubbywizard.com, iTunes, etc. You're going to want to hear our next episode where we will talk about Rogue One with a bit of a Canadian perspective, and I'll unleash my crackpot theory about Donnie Yen's character.
Very good.
Very interesting. Well, that's how you do it, kids. That's how you tease it out.
That's a teaser.
Keenan, what do you got?
You can reach me at patreon.com/HMP if you want to contribute to this fine show. Mm-hmm. Also, you can reach me on Twitter at Hero Movie Sean.
Excellent. And, of course, like I said, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, all that kind of good jazz at Hero Movie Pod. And the Film Find may be coming back in a little bit. It's so much junk going on. But I think we're going to come back for Star Wars because that's a big one. And, of course, Preacher Podcast, preacherpodcast.com. If you enjoy the Preacher program on the AMCs, check out that. We were rated #1 Preacher Podcast by AMC.com, for heaven's sake.
My dad listens to that one.
I mean, and my parents don't listen to anything that I do, so that's got to be good. So that is it, everybody. Again, join us next week for our year-end review. For Sean Keenan, Bruce Leslie, I'm Adam Portrais. Stay super, everybody.
Bye, Marty and Evie.
Oh, my stars, I've never been so busy before. It seems Christmas arrives sooner each year. Christmas in the stars, Christmas in the stars. What a merry Christmas this will be. Christmas in the stars, out among the stars, lighting up a Christmas tree. Come on, everyone, and sing. Our hearts are full of joy, and music's in the air, and voices want to sing, and we will sing. Go, Artu, how could you ask a question like that? Of course I'm getting ready for Christmas. It's all right here on my list. I've got mistletoe and holly. I've got peppermints and lollipops and 20 different kinds of chocolate bars. Everyone will be delighted. Even I am quite excited, getting ready for Christmas in the stars. Yes, Artu, of course it's terrific, but there's more. Everyone will have a cookie. I bought extra for the Wookiee. I just hope that everybody can be here. If we all have marked the date, and if none of them is late, we'll have our greatest of Christmases this year. 2 moons above, we'll see them all as we go sleighing in the evening on the blue and frozen snow. Why,
is that droid floating?
Because he is wearing hover skates.
If they're not ready by Christmas, S-Claus will be furious.
I agree, R2. We had better help them. Look, perhaps Chewie can help too.
Watch out, R5-D4! You are under the mistletoe! Oh no,
Christmas in the stars, Christmas in the stars. What a merry Christmas this will be. Christmas in the stars, out among the stars. What a merry, merry Christmas. A very merry Christmas this will be. What is that? That, my silly friend, is the sound of bells. What are bells?